Tooltime recently made a video about just how fearful and quick to vilify the religious in America are. When I was growing up, The Simpsons and the Ninja Turtles were considered evil or satanic. Back in the 80s, there was a book called Terror in the Toy Box that claimed that all of these secular toys were made with the agenda to turn kids from God into Satan. They even made the claim that New Age pagans were infusing demons into Cabbage Patch Kids, giving children nightmares and behavioral problems. My mom actually threw out my old Star Wars toys because she thought they were a bad influence, something which she now regrets and is something which I continue to humorously give her shit about to this day. Mind you, I was also annoyingly obsessed with Star Wars and would talk about nothing else, so I'm sure that had an impact on her decision as well. The Exorcist and Rosemary's Baby actually had a lot to do with the resurgence of the belief in demonology. Media is a powerful force and can create a ton of fear in the inflexible mind. Once South Park and Marilyn Manson came out, the right realized that Simpsons, Madonna, and Ninja Turtles weren't so bad after all. Then came Harry Potter, which sparked a new wave of fear. Why are religious so afraid? Michael Shermer pointed out that the religious people literally believe that without religion, society would break down and chaos would occur. Many blame the rise in crime on a removal of prayer in schools and women being allowed to work. Actually, crime has dropped since these things occurred due to improvements in economic conditions, but the news reports it more. The current generation is much more capable of dealing with these paradigm shifts than older generations. They have to be. I went to go see Harry Potter when I was beginning to backslide into a liberal Christian, and everyone was talking about the evils of Harry Potter. So I went to watch it and couldn't see a thing wrong with it, even if I had still been a fundy. And that is the thing with the young generation. Get told something is evil, then they experience and go, wait, this is what we were freaking out about? It makes them desensitized to shock and become more easily disillusioned with what their parents or church tell them. Over-vilifying marijuana commercials do the same thing. This is one of the many reasons why young people think their elders are morons and that they know everything. The youth of the Middle East are currently going through the same thing too, being told that Western secularism is of the devil, and when they finally experience it, they go, wait, this is fun, and not really evil at all. Why does this fear affect US more than, say, Europe? Well, the US has twice the landmass as the EU for the same amount of people. When you live closer together, you're forced to experience more things, to interact and live together more. In the US, you can live in a closed community without seeing a different point of view. Media and the internet are now infringing on their isolation, and they really don't like it and fear change. When the radio was first invented, people were overwhelmed by the amount of mental stimulation created by them. Prior to that, music was made by people near you. You could sell a song, you provided your own theme music, and very simple sounds. You probably had a max of one instrument if you knew how to play, and only the well-off in the big cities had large, expensive orchestras. If any of us were sent back in time, most of us, especially younger kids, would be driven mad with boredom and lack of stimulation. As time has progressed, radio has gone from the most overstimulating sensation around to the thing you switch on to help you relax and focus. As we have progressed, the quicker, faster, and more complex stimulation a media source has, the more it sells. While we have shorter attention spans, if harnessed right, we can take in a lot more information. The average teen has to know a lot these days about pop culture and media, or they will be looked on as if they're living under a rock. I used to think that kids back in the day must have been smarter because they had greater attention spans, as old shows can be a bit on the dull side to someone raised in my era. While they were smart, their ability to adapt their mind to new ideas may have been a bit on the slower side, as the media of the time did not demand it. The knowledge input and the amount of stimulation to an older person that would be required to allow a loss of religion may be overwhelming, unless they had always been a ravenous study of new information and facts. I know so many elderly people who fear change, are a bit slow to grasp humor, and cannot grasp computers, and are taken for rides financially by fast-talking swindlers. Mental stimulation like learning has been shown to prevent Alzheimer's and other forms of elderly delirium, but if they did not do things to stimulate their mind prior, like constant study, reading, and logic puzzles and games, their chances of starting now are probably quite low. I am wondering if the higher bars of information processing speed needed in this complicated world to keep up socially isn't why we are seeing a rise in atheism and free thinking. This new generation is forced into constant change and to be constantly skeptical of new scams and schemes they could get sucked into on the internet and new media and trends to keep up socially and for enjoyment. While many of the elderly come from an age where change is bad and conformity is good. I know I discuss the elderly often, and my large demographic are men 45 to 54, so please don't take this to heart. I know many sharp, constantly learning, and constantly thinking elderly people that I look up to, but in the Midwest especially, they are a bit few and far between. However, your chances of changing your beliefs after the age of 50 is near zero. This is why I tend to avoid discussing religion around anyone who is religious and older than 50. I'm wasting my time and making them worry and stress for my soul because I'm such a nice guy. I will try to push science, tolerance, secularism, and politics, but religion is like the blue pill from the Matrix, where they wouldn't wake people up from the Matrix over a certain age. Back in the day, city kids were privy to more information and a higher stimulating experience than kids out in the country. Thanks to the internet and cable, even kids working on their parents' farm out in the middle of the sticks get around the same level of mental stimulation as a child in the city. I have a feeling my isolationist homeschooling, with little outside TV watching in the middle of the country, was the only reason why I took religion so seriously growing up. I remember having a passion for it the way my fellow average kids didn't. They found the Bible boring, but necessary. I found it to be the most important thing in my life. Had I access to the same movies and TV they did, I may have had the exact same attitude and never studied it enough to end up questioning it. To this day, I still have problems focusing when a TV is playing something bright and flashy because I don't think I've built up the desensitivity to the stimulation that most people have. And to study and listen to music at the same time, well, forget it. That may also be a link to my Asperger's, but most people I know claim to study better with background noise playing, as they have been surrounded by it most of their life. There is a dangerous downside to the new normal for kids. I know many that are sharp and extremely fast thinking, but many of them to keep up may just have quantity of thinking over quality. ADD may be considered normal in the future, and we may be viewed as slow-speaking old-timers for using caution. Another danger is that entertainment and social networking may overshadow and blind many of them to political and human rights issues. Last generation, the young people of China protested often and tried to push for political change. Perhaps because of the rise in cynicism or just the rise in material goods, the majority of young people in China are more focused on entertainment than on politics. America has been in flux in these areas as well, with serious decline in voting due to apathy. It has been found that if all of the registered Democrats that had registered to vote actually showed up to vote, the Democratic Party would have gained seats this last election. With this ADD instant gratification generation, not getting everything you want is viewed as failure, and disillusionment hits very quickly. Change is slow. Much of it is because people's minds are slow to change, especially our elders. The baby boom generation, who makes up a significant portion of the Republican Party and the Tea Party. Of course, any new evolutionary change has its advantages and dangers, either biological or psychological. Humanity is a continuous race between technology and ethics. We stay teetering on the edge of a knife, but if we could increase the awareness of others as we have for centuries, we can and will keep that balance without destroying ourselves and the world.